Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to teach you a little bit of background about the English Empire. That'll be the first part of the video. That'll be video part one. And then in part two, we're going to talk about English imperialism because that's a very complicated subject. All right guys, so let's get started. Okay, so where did England begin? This is ancient Great Britain. This is about 2,000 years ago, a little bit more than 2,000 years ago. And you'll notice that these English people, they have stone weapons, and they're really not wearing clothes, and they seem pretty primitive. They seem pretty savage, and they were. So before about 2,000 years ago, no cities, no writing, no civilization. Now, the way that they became civilized is right here. This is the Roman army. And about 2,000 years ago, the Roman army conquered England and Great Britain. And that is how English civilization started. The reason I mention this is English civilization is very old, but England is actually, or Great Britain is actually pretty young. Okay, so right now, Great Britain is Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England. And these four together are called Great Britain. Great Britain is only about 100 years old. It's actually fairly new. So, English culture is 2,000 years old, but Great Britain, the country, is only about 100 years old. Okay? Now, here is a big difference. A big important part of English culture. This is something that I want you guys to focus on. This is Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a culture hero in England, and his legend is very, very old. More than 1,000 years old. Now, or not more than, about 1,000 years old. Now, the interesting thing about Robin Hood is he's very different from Korean or Japanese or Chinese heroes. He's not like Yi Sun-shin. He's not like Dang Tae-jong. He is helping individual people by attacking the community. And this is a really important part of English culture. In English culture, individuals are very important. And the community is something that you should be suspicious of, kind of afraid of, which is very different from traditional Chinese, Japanese, and Korean heroes. This man is another example of this. His name is Stephen Langton. We're going to talk about him in chapter 5, I think? Yeah, chapter 5. We're going to talk about him a lot in chapter 5. But he is an English hero, and he is similar to Robin Hood. He protected individual people against the king. And because of this, he became a hero. So, when we talk about individualism, ge인주의, we're talking about an English idea. This is something that comes from England. I'll talk about this more later, but ge인주의 is kind of a bad translation of individualism. Ge인주의 in Korean is like selfishness, like ikijui. That's not what it means when English people or American people talk about it. To an American person or an English person, individualism means not gainjui, it means independence, it means strength, it means bravery and the ability to think for yourself. So gainjui is kind of a bad translation. But anyway, we'll talk more about that later. Okay, now, how does England impact us today? How does it affect us these days? Man, it affects us a lot. So, this guy, Isaac Newton. If you guys have ever studied Mijak Bunhak, it's because of him. He invented Mijak Bunhak. Calculus. Okay? He also invented modern physics. So, when you learn calculus or you learn physics, it's from the Englishman, Isaac Newton. Okay, this is the King James Version of the Bible. When you guys go to church and read the Bible, your Bible is almost certainly from the King James Version. Okay? This English version of the Bible is by far the most important version of the Bible. Okay? You guys probably don't know this gentleman, but he is a huge part of your life. Okay? His name is John Locke. So, 500 years ago, nobody in Europe, nobody in Asia, nobody in Africa believed in democracy or equality or human rights. The reason we believe in equality and human rights and democracy today is mostly because of John Locke. And John Locke was from Great Britain. Okay, so this is this brings up an important question. How did Isaac Newton, the King James Bible, John Locke, the Beatles, Jane Austen, Shakespeare, how did these people become so famous? How did they have so much influence on our lives? The answer to that question is very complicated. It's the English Empire. The English military controlled Canada, Honduras, the West Indies, Bahamas, Bermuda, the Falkland Islands, South Georgia, Guyana, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Ireland, Sudan, Nigeria, the Gold Coast, South Africa, Zanzibar, Kenya, Sudan, Oman, Iraq, the Indian Empire, Sri Lanka, Australia, New Zealand, and New Guinea. And Hong Kong. That is a lot of imperialism. In fact, it is the largest empire the world has ever seen. This is the biggest empire that ever existed. And it came from England. And it was all Jeguntui. So, this is a question for you guys. Is Isaac Newton, the Bible, John Locke, the Beatles, Jane Austen, Shakespeare, is that worth all of this imperialism? I don't know. Okay, so this is going to be the end of part one, the first video. In the next video, we're going to talk more about imperialism, because imperialism is a really, really important part of understanding England. Alright guys, I'm going to take a break.